All right, Aries, welcome to your October of 2015 horoscope. My name is Athen. So this is, of course, for Sidereal Astrology. If you're new to this form of astrology, do check the description down below because your sign might be different. But another busy month in the astrology for all of us, and for you, Aries, no exception to that. I'm going to go ahead and go through this one step at a time here. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to let me know. I'm going to do this in kind of two halves, actually. First, I'm going to talk about the first half of the month, and then I'm going to talk about the second half of the month, because this astrology is kind of split up in that sort of fashion. So the first thing is that right at the beginning, Saturn goes into your 8th house. Now, Saturn's already been in this 8th house. But what this essentially means is that Saturn had been finishing up his 7th house things, relationships, one-on-one connections. The past few months, and this has really been going on for the past couple years, is long-term commitments in relationships, patience, hard work, all that Saturnian energy in your one-on-one connections. Now Saturn has shifted back into where he was in the earlier part of this year, in Scorpio, back into Scorpio. And this is going to be your 8th house. So now for the next about 2.5 years, you guys have Saturn in a part of your chart that is very much about the truth of the matter and seeing the truth for how it is, facing fears, confronting fears, putting energy and momentum into things that you're really passionate about, but in an emotional sense, you know, the things that are really close to the heart. So that's what Saturn is. It's also shared resources and debts, for maybe removing yourself from debts, getting deeper in your one-on-one connections and things like that. And this is going to be the overall theme of where you can put in that hard work and energy. Now, depending on your personal charts, a lot of you will be feeling this shift for the next couple months, more so. But you'll certainly feel this energy, all of you, at least to a degree, shifting in this early part of the month. Now, at that same time, Saturn is going to continue to be sextiling up to the North Node as he was last month, signifying more of this energy in your 6th house. You guys last month had some energy going into the 6th, but now this month is really going to emphasize it. You had that solar eclipse in your 5th, which was about self-expression. Self-expression should be quite high. At least there's opportunities here. Jupiter's still transiting here this month. Venus is here. You can continue to enjoy your self-expression, creativity, and you're quite motivated still this month to pursue the things that, in this sense, you're fiery about. However, your 6th house, which is about the work sector, it's your daily activities, it's your health, has been the overall life path theme for the past couple years. And we're going to have the new moon here on the 12th. And so Mercury's here. You guys are probably thinking, and it's a great month to take care of the busy aspects of life. You have the sun here. There's a lot of illumination. There's a lot of awareness of the daily activities. And it's good for self-improvement. It's good for work. It's seeing how your work can be more freeing. A lot of this energy is opposing up to Uranus, which is about freedom at work, freedom in the daily sphere of things, while making sure you are getting that alone time, which again is what's prompting a lot of the spiritual freedom of yours. So with that being said, the North Node's been transiting here for two years, so Saturn is supporting this continuously this month. So any energy that you do put into health and stuff, you'll probably notice an opening and a life path energy unfolding for you in that sector. Mercury does conjoin up to this North Node here on the basically from these first couple weeks of the month, which is the same time that's going on, helping you understand more about the importance of taking care of things, time management, energy management, etc. Now, Mercury does go station direct on the 9th, so a lot of the things that you did learn about these 6th house matters will start to move forward for you, and you can start to apply. So especially Mercury, who rules your 3rd house and your 6th house, a lot of things that you've been reworking with the routine, with the health, and even with the way you see things or your communications will start to move forward this month, specifically around the 9th. From the 5th to the 8th, here's where we get pretty personal for you, Aries. Mars, your ruler, is going to be opposing up to Neptune, who's been transiting this 11th house of yours. So this opposition, and this was kind of the flavor of last month, but here it's much more personal. That in the sense of all of these things that are starting to unfold for you from the last solar eclipse involving that creativity or passion or, whatever it might be there, is needing that sort of dose of trust and faith again. And again, it's familiar because the sun already did this, but now it's your ruler. So this, this early part of the month, really this first week and maybe even the second week, you guys might be feeling like, it's a little bit of that haze around matters. Because a ruler is you. Opposing up to Neptune is that on one hand, you might be trying to express yourself, and then on the other hand, There's this uncertainty about who we are, what we're doing, where we're going. So the most important thing, if you are experiencing like that, to a degree, it'll be different for each of you, is a sense of faith and trust, of course, and then also trusting that intuitive sort of process. Make sure you are getting enough rest and relaxation so you have that introverted time this early part of the month, because it'll be through that you can gain that momentum, but it'll be because something else is fueling you, something else is calling you, which is more of that spiritual calling or that spiritual intuition, if you want to call it that. So that's important, and it's patience. This is a patient sort of month. The sun is going to be squaring up to Pluto, and a couple other things. Now, while that's happening, and this is going to be going into the 16th, all the way through the 16th, Jupiter is trining up to Pluto this month. So it is a very powerful month. Pluto, as you can see, is forming a lot of aspects in the chart, particularly harmonious ones up to these fast movers here in your 5th house. Your self-expression probably has been quite powerful. So that's going to continue to be the case this month. And this is a very important transit. This is all of your philosophies, all of your spirituality, things that you see in the big picture and your future, sort of getting this dose of truth, but in a good way, where you're able to make change there. You're changing your philosophy, you're changing your outlook, your whole life path is changing, as it has been with Pluto in that 9th house, but especially with him trining up to Pluto, up to Jupiter like this. So it's a very powerful transit, and I think the highest point, aside from your self-expression being intense and supportive for you to make changes here, it's also going to be specifically around rest and relaxation, spirituality, and your philosophy and outlook on life. From the 10th and the 11th, Venus does square up to Saturn. This is the 3rd time this has happened, actually, so be patient with the relationship stuff this middle part of the month, and with the financial stuff. Make sure you are giving it that stern eye, that patient eye, which is Saturn. This 3rd time it's happened. It's been this ongoing theme already. Now on the 12th, we have a new moon in that 6th. So there are new beginnings shaping up for you in the daily sphere of things. This might be work for some of you. It might be developing these creative things into a sort of pursuit, because all of this energy of your 5th house is about excitement. It's like sometimes it's just ideas, and sometimes it's just like you start to get the inkling about things. But once the energy starts to go into your 6th, which is that grounded energy of Virgo, it's starting to starting to implement it, starting to develop maybe some creative things into a craft or into something like that. So for some of you who are having a very tangible solar eclipse energy from new beginnings in your passion and creativity, it's solidifying it, it's developing it into a craft, it's working at it, and it's really getting that routine taken care of so you can prolong these enjoyments, these passions. And for some of you, it might be work, it might be relationships, it could be romantic. It just depends on your personal chart. But the 6th house always refines and improves the inspirations that we get from the 5th. So that's going to be big, and that's it's a pretty transformative new moon. I mean, it's got a T-square. It's going to have a T-square between Uranus and Pluto. All right, so again, Pluto is all about transformation and change, and that's a big aspect of this month. Non-attachment is very important with this, and working hard, and at the same time remembering that there is alone time, there is spirituality, there is all of that rest and relaxation that needs to be brought into the mix. But in either case, I'll talk more about this in the weekly. The most important thing is that you do have some new beginnings here around that 6th house. Now, the second half of the month, let's go ahead and get into it. We've got your ruler. Now things start to shift for you, and it looks quite nice. Your ruler at that point conjoins up to Jupiter. Now, conjunction between Mars and Jupiter, well, any ruler for that matter, is very, very nice. You get like this kind of inspiration. You get this sort of dose of like, all of a sudden you feel like you can accomplish a lot. You're seeing the future. You're optimistic about the future. And that's all great, and it's relating to these 5th house things. So use that, implement it. Again, be patient, get that alone time, get that rest, because Neptune is opposing up to it. Maybe you don't have everything figured out in regards to how it is, but if it's coming from that heart center, if it's coming from that spiritual calling, if you will, then that eases it up and that helps it, balance itself out. And again, it's really just listening to that gut and flowing with how events are flowing. But in either case, you guys should be feeling quite spirited the second half of the month. Now, that energy is going to be trining up to Pluto, of course. So you guys, it's constructive. That's when things start to shift, and it might be from these new beginnings relating to the routine and stuff. But there is a lot of power for you guys to implement into this fifth house creative stuff. Again, it could be romance, it could be creative projects, etc. Now, the 16th and 17th has Venus opposing up to Neptune. So again, more themes relating to these ideals and visions. The Neptunian energy there, especially with finances and relationships. Not seeing things analytically this month, but that's okay because there's a spiritual connection. There's compassion happening in relationships that are much deeper than the day-to-day sort of conversation. And then from the 22nd and 23rd, Venus does trine up to Pluto. So that's quite supportive here, and that's supportive for the relationships. And then Venus does conjoin up to Jupiter for the third and final time in that fifth house. So by the end of the month, around the 25th, things start to pick up. Even more so, at least in terms of the relationships and finances. It's very nice to have a Venus-Jupiter conjunction. When she's direct, it's her final aspect. You might get an inclination of what this might be over the past couple months where she's been bouncing around this fifth house, but it's probably inspiration with relationships. Again, could be of the flirtatious or romantic sphere of things, but in either case, it's feeling quite good about what you can do. Just stay nice and grounded with it because, again, Saturn is squaring up to this position. Stay grounded with financial stuff this month, but in either case, it could be some opportunities or maybe some relationship opportunities on the 25th. Now, on the 27th, we have the full moon, and it's in your sign. So this is a culminating point now from over the past 6 months for you personally. You guys had a new moon during your birthdays here in your first house, so now it's a culmination. So think back for the past 6 months. What have you been working on in terms of your goals, your aspirations, your drives? All of this can be coming to a culminating point. And at the very least, you're seeing who you are, clearly at the end. And you can see those inspirations, you can see those ambitions, and all of that can be implemented this later part of the month, certainly. Now, to cap off the month, and this is really going into November, is that Venus and Jupiter will be conjoining for the third time, again, in this fifth house. So the great thing with this is that this is that yin-yang energy. So again, the relationship stuff, the financial stuff, you start to get more motivated about it, as you have been. But again, this month, mostly into November though. So just wanted to give you that heads up. The end of the month can look quite enjoyable, especially with Venus over Jupiter, and can be quite inspiring for you to take more action to connect to those passions and playful and entertainment and all those other fifth house activities. So Aries, have a great month. If you guys have any questions, please do let me know. If you'd like a personal reading, do click the link down on the bottom of the page, and I'll see you all next time. Take care.